Good, everyone. Today, I want to share 5 truths that can change the way we face life, especially when we feel overwhelmed or worried. These are simple ideas, yet powerful, and they work if we take them to heart. Focus only on what you can control. This is one of the simplest yet most powerful truths, though it is also one of the hardest to live by. Most of our suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from how we react to what happens. Life constantly presents events, people, and circumstances that are outside our influence. A traffic jam, the weather, the behavior of others, sudden changes in work, or unexpected illness, these are things we cannot control. Yet so often we spend energy worrying, complaining, or feeling frustrated about them. Every time we invest thought or emotion into things beyond our control, we weaken our peace of mind. Recognizing this distinction between what is within our control and what is not is a skill that can transform how we experience life. When we focus on what we can control, we direct our energy toward actions and choices that actually make a difference. Our choices, our effort, and our attitude are entirely within our power. We can choose to act with patience, with kindness, and with integrity, no matter the situation. We can choose to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. We can choose our thoughts, our attention, and our focus. These are the things that shape our character, our relationships, and our daily experience. By consistently putting energy into these areas, we not only achieve more meaningful results, we also build a stable inner life that is not easily shaken by external chaos. One of the reasons it is difficult to focus on what we can control is that we have a natural tendency to imagine outcomes, to predict, and to worry. We think that if we plan, if we anticipate, we can avoid mistakes or pain. Yet this habit often traps us in fear and anxiety, because the future is never guaranteed. Accepting that the future is uncertain allows us to redirect attention to the present moment, to the decisions we are making right now. The effort we put into understanding ourselves, improving our skills, being disciplined, and responding with clarity is entirely within our control. By focusing on these things, we prepare ourselves for whatever may come without wasting energy on what we cannot change. Focusing on what is within our control also changes the way we see other people. We cannot force someone to act differently, to agree with us, or to appreciate us. Attempting to control others only leads to frustration and resentment. Instead, we can control our own words, our own actions, and our own approach to relationships. We can act with respect, fairness, and compassion, leaving the results to unfold naturally. This mindset frees us from the constant need to manipulate outcomes or seek approval, replacing it with a sense of calm and confidence that comes from knowing we are acting rightly, regardless of external circumstances. Another aspect of this principle is the power of choice in our emotional responses. Life often feels difficult not because of events themselves, but because of the way we interpret them. When we focus on what we can control, our perception, our attitude, and our response, we gain the ability to remain steady in the face of adversity. We begin to see obstacles as opportunities to exercise patience, courage, and wisdom. We stop blaming others or the world for our suffering, because we understand that peace comes from within, not from the absence of challenges. In practical terms, focusing on what we can control means paying attention to our daily habits, our thoughts, and our decisions. It means asking ourselves, is this within my power to change? If it is, we act. If it is not, we let it go. This practice requires awareness, discipline, and repeated effort, because the mind naturally drifts toward worry over things beyond our influence. Over time, however, this focus builds resilience, clarity, and a sense of freedom that cannot be taken away by circumstances. Accept reality as it is. This principle is essential for living with peace and clarity, yet it is often overlooked because the mind resists what is uncomfortable. Life will not always follow the path we desire. Circumstances will change, people will behave unpredictably, and plans will fail. Many of our struggles come not from events themselves, but from the resistance to what has already happened. When we fight reality, we create tension, disappointment, and frustration. Acceptance is not about passivity or surrender, it is about seeing the world clearly, without distortion, and responding to it wisely. Acceptance begins with observation. We must notice what is happening without immediately judging it as good or bad. A sudden problem at work, an argument with a friend, or a personal setback is simply a fact of life. Labeling it as unfair or wrong only fuels emotional suffering. By observing events objectively, we create space to respond rationally instead of reacting impulsively. This does not mean we do not try to improve situations within our power, but it does mean we recognize the limits of our influence and avoid wasting energy on resistance. When we accept reality, we also gain the ability to adapt. Life is constantly changing, and rigid expectations create disappointment. A person who accepts reality can bend without breaking. They can adjust plans, find alternative solutions, and maintain inner calm even when things do not go as imagined. This flexibility is not weakness, it is strength. It allows us to act with clarity and efficiency, focusing on what matters rather than being consumed by what cannot be changed. Acceptance also transforms our emotions. Much of anxiety, anger, and sadness comes from wishing things were different from how they are. When we accept what is, these emotions lose their grip. We begin to experience a sense of peace that comes from understanding the limits of our control and embracing the flow of life. Challenges are no longer threats to our happiness, but situations that call for our judgment, patience, and skill. Even suffering becomes a teacher, revealing our resilience and helping us develop virtues such as courage, discipline, and wisdom. A key part of acceptance is understanding that events are neutral. It is our interpretation that gives them weight. When misfortune occurs, it is not inherently good or bad. It is simply something that exists. We decide how to perceive it. We can see it as a catastrophe, or we can see it as an opportunity to learn, grow, or practice patience. By accepting events as they are, we stop wasting energy on bitterness or regret and begin to focus on how to respond effectively. Acceptance also means recognizing the nature of others. People will act according to their own desires, beliefs, and limitations, which are beyond our control. Trying to force others to behave differently creates frustration. When we accept them as they are, we gain freedom from resentment and can engage with clarity and fairness. This does not mean we excuse harmful behavior, but we learn to respond without being controlled by anger or disappointment. Practically, acceptance requires constant awareness and reflection. It involves checking our thoughts and asking whether we are resisting what is real. It requires honesty with ourselves about what can and cannot be changed. Over time, this practice strengthens the mind, allowing it to remain steady even amid chaos. Acceptance provides a foundation for action that is effective, rational, and calm, rather than reactive and fraught with worry. Change your perspective on challenges. Life is full of difficulties, obstacles, and unexpected events. How we interpret these events determines how much they affect us. Two people may face the same situation, yet one suffers greatly while the other remains calm and even finds opportunity. The difference is perspective. By changing how we see challenges, we can transform frustration into growth, fear into courage, and obstacles into lessons. Challenges are inevitable, but suffering is optional. When something difficult occurs, our first reaction is often anger, fear, or disappointment. We see the event as unfair, as a punishment, or as something to resist. This reaction magnifies the difficulty and creates mental turmoil. Instead, if we step back and ask ourselves what the challenge can teach us, we change the situation entirely. Every difficulty contains a lesson. Every problem is an opportunity to practice patience, resilience, creativity, and discipline. The shift in perspective allows us to respond constructively, rather than being trapped in emotional reactions. Our mind has the power to turn obstacles into allies or enemies. A heavy workload can feel exhausting, or it can become a chance to strengthen discipline and focus. A difficult conversation with a friend or colleague can feel threatening, or it can be an opportunity to practice empathy and clear communication. A personal failure can feel like the end, or it can become a foundation for improvement. The event itself does not determine our experience, our interpretation does. By consciously choosing to see challenges as opportunities for growth, we gain control over our emotional life and reduce unnecessary suffering. Changing perspective also requires separating what is external from what is internal. External events are often beyond our control, but our response is always within it. When we face a setback, we can choose to react with negativity or with reason. We can ask, How can I use this moment wisely? Rather than why is this happening to me? This shift empowers us because it places responsibility and agency in our own hands. Instead of being victims of circumstance, we become architects of our inner life. Gratitude is a powerful tool in changing perspective. Even in difficulty, there is always something to appreciate: health, loved ones, freedom, knowledge, or the chance to act with virtue. By focusing on what is good in any situation, we reduce the sense of misfortune and increase resilience. Gratitude is not about denying hardship, it is about seeing reality in balance, noticing that even difficult moments have value. This approach strengthens the mind and nurtures a steady sense of contentment, even amid challenges. Another key to shifting perspective is recognizing impermanence. Challenges do not last forever. Situations, emotions, and difficulties are constantly changing. By keeping this in mind, we avoid becoming trapped in despair or frustration. The present difficulty is temporary, and by responding wisely, we prepare ourselves for the future while maintaining calm in the present. Changing perspective also encourages patience and self-discipline. When faced with hardship, the instinct is often to act impulsively, to complain, or to avoid discomfort. By adjusting our perspective, we learn to pause, consider, and act deliberately. We build the habit of seeing beyond the immediate inconvenience, understanding the long-term value of endurance, and strengthening the mind against the whims of fortune. Finally, perspective allows us to see challenges as part of a larger journey. Life is not about avoiding difficulty but about growing through it. Each obstacle is a chance to refine judgment, develop courage, and deepen wisdom. By consistently practicing this shift in perception, the mind becomes resilient, the heart steady, and the spirit prepared to face whatever life presents. Live fully in the present moment. Most of our worry comes from thinking about the future or dwelling on the past. We replay mistakes, imagine what could go wrong, or long for what once was. This takes our attention away from the only moment we truly have, the present. The past cannot be changed, and the future is uncertain. Yet the present is alive, real, and within our power. To live fully in the present is to focus on what is happening right now, to act with awareness, and to respond with clarity. Being present requires attention. It means noticing the details of our surroundings, the sensations of our body, the flow of our thoughts, and the rhythm of our actions. When we eat, we eat. When we speak with focus. When we work with care. Life becomes richer when we pay attention to it, rather than moving through it distracted or preoccupied. Even small tasks, when done mindfully, become meaningful. Being present allows us to experience life directly, without the distortion of worry, regret, or expectation. Living in the present also means accepting what is happening right now. We do not postpone joy until tomorrow or blame today for being imperfect. We recognize that every moment contains something valuable, whether it is a chance to act, to learn, or simply to breathe and notice. The present is the only time we can exercise control. Decisions, choices, and actions can only happen now. By anchoring ourselves in the present, we become more effective, more clear-headed, and more capable of responding to life with wisdom. One reason it is difficult to live in the present is that the mind naturally drifts. We imagine the future, worrying about outcomes, or we dwell on past regrets. This mental habit creates anxiety and sadness because we try to live in times that are not real. By gently bringing our attention back to the present, we practice mastery over the mind. This does not mean ignoring planning or reflection, but it does mean not letting them dominate our consciousness or disturb our peace. Planning is useful when focused on action we can take now. Reflection is valuable when it informs better choices in the present. Living in the present also deepens relationships. When we are fully attentive to others, we listen with understanding, speak with sincerity, and respond with thoughtfulness. People feel valued when they are truly seen, and interactions become more meaningful. We avoid misunderstandings and an unnecessary conflict when we are aware of what is happening, instead of being lost in imagined scenarios or past grievances. Being present enhances our experience of nature and the world around us. The breeze on the skin, the sound of birds, the movement of clouds, these simple elements can bring peace and clarity when noticed fully. When we are absorbed in memory or worry, we miss these quiet gifts of life. Living in the present allows us to connect with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be or fear it might become. Another aspect of living fully in the present is embracing action. Procrastination often comes from fear of what might happen or regret over what has passed. By acting in the moment, we take responsibility for our lives, accomplish what we can, and strengthen our ability to respond wisely. Even small, deliberate actions create momentum and build confidence in our capacity to handle challenges. Living in the present also cultivates gratitude. When we pay attention to the moment, we notice what we have rather than what we lack. Each moment offers opportunities for growth, learning, connection, and enjoyment. Awareness of the present opens the door to contentment, even amidst difficulty, because it grounds us in what is real and within our power. Keep your values steady, always. In life, circumstances change, people behave unpredictably, and outcomes are uncertain. In the midst of this, the one thing we can always rely on is our own principles. Our values are the foundation of our character, the guide for our decisions, and the measure of how we act in the world. When we hold them steady, we create a life that is consistent, purposeful, and resilient, regardless of external chaos. Values act as a compass. Without them, we are easily swayed by fear, desire, or the opinions of others. We may chase approval, wealth, or comfort at the expense of integrity, kindness, or courage. But when we know what we stand for and act accordingly, we navigate life with clarity. Every decision becomes simpler because the question is no longer, what will benefit me most, but what aligns with my principles? Steadiness in values brings peace because we no longer need to constantly guess ourselves or worry about appearing right to the world. Holding to values requires practice and awareness. It is easy to act rightly when everything is going well, but true steadiness shows in moments of difficulty. When anger rises, when temptation appears, or when others pressure us to compromise, our values are tested. The choice in these moments defines our character far more than the outcomes of our actions. By remaining loyal to what we believe is right, we strengthen our self-respect and our ability to face life without regret. This does not mean rigidity, it means clarity. We can adapt to circumstances while still acting with integrity, making flexibility in action consistent with firmness in principle. Values also influence how we treat others. When we prioritize honesty, fairness, and compassion, our interactions are guided by respect rather than fear, gain, or resentment. We build trust, deepen relationships, and contribute positively to the world around us. Even when others act unfairly or cruelly, we can maintain our integrity because it is under our control. Steady values prevent us from being consumed by anger or revenge and allow us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. A steady commitment to values creates stability within the mind. Life is unpredictable, and external events often bring stress or uncertainty. When our principles are firm, we have an anchor that does not shift with every wind. Challenges may test us, but they do not erode who we are. In moments of confusion, we can return to our values as a source of guidance and confidence. This steadiness reduces anxiety, because our sense of right action is determined by our own judgment rather than the outcomes of events. Living according to values also strengthens resilience. When disappointment or failure occurs, it is easier to recover if we know we acted rightly. Mistakes may happen, but the core of our character remains intact. The clarity that comes from knowing we lived in alignment with our principles allows us to reflect, learn, and continue without being overwhelmed by regret or shame. Each decision made with integrity reinforces the strength of habit and builds a mind that is prepared for whatever life brings. Values provide purpose. When life feels confusing or directionless, our principles guide us. They help us decide where to invest our time, energy, and attention. They shape the way we treat ourselves and others, the work we do, and the goals we pursue. Without them, life can feel chaotic and aimless, with every decision influenced by shifting desires or external pressures. With them, every choice is meaningful, every action has direction, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to act according to what matters most. Steadiness in values also fosters inner freedom. External events may try to manipulate us through fear, desire, or social pressure, but a firm commitment to principle creates independence from these forces. We no longer live at the mercy of circumstance, or the approval of others, because our decisions are grounded in what we know is right. This freedom allows us to act calmly, decisively, and consistently, even in the face of adversity, knowing that our integrity is never compromised. Let go of fear about the future. Much of human suffering comes from imagining what might go wrong, worrying about events that may never happen, and anticipating disasters before they arrive. We create endless scenarios in our minds, each one more frightening than the last, and then allow these imagined fears to control our emotions and decisions. Yet the future is always uncertain, and most of the things we fear are beyond our control. By letting go of this fear, we free ourselves to act with clarity, courage, and wisdom in the present moment. Fear of the future often begins with imagining outcomes we cannot influence. We worry about our health, our career, relationships, finances, or reputation, imagining the worst-case scenario in vivid detail. These thoughts feel real because our minds treat imagination as if it were fact. However, these events do not exist yet, and many may never occur. By recognizing that fear is largely based on speculation rather than reality, we can detach from it and redirect our energy to what is within our control: our actions, choices, and mindset. Letting go of fear does not mean ignoring the future or avoiding planning. Planning is valuable when it prepares us for action, but it should not become a source of anxiety. We can prepare for what might happen without being consumed by worry. This requires a shift in perspective. Instead of fearing outcomes, we focus on what we can do today to respond wisely if challenges arise. By acting in the present, we build strength and readiness without being enslaved by imagined problems. Another reason fear of the future grips us is because we cling to certainty. We want to know exactly what will happen and how life will unfold, but certainty is an illusion. Change is constant, and life often unfolds in unexpected ways. By accepting uncertainty, we release the need to control outcomes that are beyond us. This does not mean we become passive. It means we act with purpose while understanding that we cannot dictate every result. Peace comes from focusing on effort rather than outcome, and from trusting our ability to navigate whatever comes. Fear of the future also distracts us from the present. When we are consumed by what-ifs, we miss the opportunities, experiences, and actions available to us right now. We postpone happiness, ignore relationships, and fail to notice small blessings. By letting go of fear, we reclaim the present moment, allowing ourselves to live fully, act wisely, and respond effectively. The present is always real. The future exists only in imagination. By anchoring ourselves in the now, fear loses its power and clarity emerges. We also release fear by understanding the limits of our control. The future depends on countless factors, many of them outside our influence. Worrying about these factors is futile because it changes nothing. Instead, we focus on our own conduct, choices, and preparation. This is where our power lies, and investing energy here creates results. By accepting what we cannot control and concentrating on what we can, we build confidence and reduce unnecessary suffering. Letting go of fear about the future cultivates courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Each time we face uncertainty without being paralyzed by imagined threats, we strengthen our mind and spirit. Challenges become opportunities to exercise wisdom, patience, and resilience. By practicing this detachment, fear no longer dictates our life, and we move through uncertainty with steady determination and calm judgment. Finally, letting go of fear transforms our view of life itself. Life becomes less about avoiding danger and more about responding with virtue and purpose. Each day is an opportunity to act rightly, to learn, and to grow, rather than a source of worry about what might happen tomorrow. By releasing fear of the future, we create space for clarity, action, and inner peace, allowing us to navigate life with strength and balance. Respond with reason, not emotion. Life is filled with situations that provoke strong feelings: anger, fear, frustration, sadness, or excitement. These emotions are natural, but if we allow them to control us, they often lead to poor decisions, conflict, and regret. The mind is most effective when it guides action with clarity and reason rather than being driven by impulse. By responding thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally, we maintain control over ourselves and act in ways that align with our values and long-term goals. Emotions are signals, not commands. They alert us to something happening, but they do not always provide the correct response. Anger may arise when someone insults or disappoints us, but acting in anger can harm relationships and escalate conflict. Fear may signal potential danger, but if we allow it to dominate, we may avoid opportunities that are beneficial or necessary. Happiness and excitement can feel intoxicating, leading to impulsive decisions that undermine stability. Reason allows us to examine these emotions, understand their source, and decide how best to act. Responding with reason requires awareness. It involves pausing before we speak, act, or react. In the moment of strong emotion, we must recognize what we feel and question whether our response serves our long-term well-being and principles. This pause does not weaken us, it strengthens us, giving the mind time to process information and choose the most effective course of action. Even a few seconds of reflection can prevent mistakes and cultivate greater self-control. Reason also allows us to see situations objectively. When we are swept by emotion, we often distort reality, imagining slights, dangers, or obstacles that are exaggerated or even imagined. By stepping back and considering facts, context, and perspective, we respond appropriately rather than being misled by our feelings. This objectivity helps in personal relationships, work, and daily life as we navigate challenges with calm judgment instead of reactive intensity. Another aspect of responding with reason is understanding the limits of our control. Emotional reactions often arise when we attempt to control things outside our influence, other people's opinions, events, or outcomes. By recognizing that these factors are beyond us, we can focus on our own thoughts, choices, and actions. Reason guides us to invest energy where it matters, reducing unnecessary stress and regret. We act with intention rather than being pushed by circumstances. Responding with reason also strengthens relationships. When conflict arises, responding emotionally can escalate tension, create misunderstandings, and damage trust. Reasoned responses, on the other hand, allow for clear communication, fairness, and empathy. Even when faced with rudeness, criticism, or betrayal, a reasoned approach allows us to maintain integrity, protect our boundaries, and address problems constructively. This skill builds respect, understanding, and lasting connections. Practicing reason over emotion develops resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges will always test us. By training the mind to act with reason, we develop patience, perseverance, and mental strength. We are less likely to be overwhelmed by setbacks, disappointment, or unexpected change because we approach each situation calmly and thoughtfully. Reasoned action creates stability in a world that is often chaotic, and it enables us to navigate difficulties with skill rather than being swept away by impulse. Finally, responding with reason cultivates freedom. Emotions can enslave us, dictating how we think, act, and feel. When we allow reason to guide us, we reclaim control over our lives. We act deliberately, in alignment with our principles and long-term goals, rather than being driven by transient impulses. This freedom allows us to live more fully, make better decisions, and face life with confidence, composure, and clarity, no matter the challenges that arise. See setbacks as opportunities to grow. Life will inevitably present obstacles, disappointments, and failures. These moments are uncomfortable and often unwelcome, yet they are among the greatest teachers we have. Every setback carries within it a chance to develop strength, wisdom, patience, and resilience. The way we respond to difficulty determines whether it becomes a source of suffering or a source of growth. By approaching setbacks with the right mindset, we can turn challenges into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Setbacks are natural and unavoidable. No one escapes difficulty or failure, and trying to resist this truth leads to frustration and wasted energy. Instead, recognizing that setbacks are part of life allows us to face them with calm and readiness. When a project fails, when a relationship ends, or when a personal goal is not met, we can choose to see these events as opportunities for reflection and improvement. They reveal areas where we can learn, adjust, and grow stronger, rather than simply being obstacles to success. Every setback teaches us something if we are willing to look. It may teach patience when progress is slow, resilience when faced with repeated difficulties, humility when our pride is challenged, or creativity when solutions are required. These lessons cannot always be learned in comfort or ease. The challenges that seem hardest at first often become the moments that shape character most deeply. By shifting focus from what went wrong to what can be learned, we transform disappointment into education. The way we respond to setbacks shapes our future. If we react with despair, anger, or blame, we reinforce habits of negativity and helplessness. But if we respond with reflection, responsibility, and effort, we develop habits that build competence and inner strength. Each difficulty then becomes a training ground for the mind, allowing us to approach future challenges with greater skill, patience, and confidence. The more setbacks we face and learn from, the more resilient we become. Setbacks also reveal what truly matters. When life does not go as planned, we are forced to reconsider priorities, values, and intentions. We see where effort was misplaced, where expectations were unrealistic, and where focus should be adjusted. This clarity can guide better choices in the future and help us align actions with principles, ensuring that effort is spent on what is meaningful, rather than superficial or fleeting. Another important aspect is control. While we cannot always control outcomes, we can control how we respond. A setback does not define us unless we allow it to. By taking responsibility for our reactions, we maintain agency and power over our lives. This perspective shifts the focus from frustration over what cannot be changed to proactive action in areas where we can make a difference. Growth is always found in the actions we take, not in lamenting events beyond our control. Setbacks encourage resilience because they build emotional strength. Each time we encounter difficulty and navigate it wisely, we reinforce confidence in our ability to endure and adapt. The mind becomes less fragile, less prone to panic or despair, and more capable of handling future adversity with composure. By embracing challenges rather than avoiding them, we cultivate a durable spirit that can thrive even under pressure. Finally, seeing setbacks as opportunities changes our overall attitude toward life. Life is no longer seen as a series of threats to avoid, but as a journey filled with chances to grow, learn, and practice virtue. Each difficulty becomes a tool for development, a moment to practice patience, courage, and wisdom, and a way to strengthen the mind and character. By viewing setbacks in this light, our experience of life becomes richer, more meaningful, and more empowering, allowing us to approach each moment with readiness, insight, and calm determination.